Welcome to the deep dive. We grab a whole lot of information, sort of peel back the layers and hand you the really key insights. Today we're diving into something that affects, well, so many people, often in ways you wouldn't expect: allergies. We'll journey from where the idea even started to how modern science helps us understand and, manage them, all based on the sources you shared.
Absolutely. And our goal here is to really help you understand what an allergy actually is,
Yeah.
how your immune system reacts, sometimes dramatically, to things that seem harmless. We'll cover the common types and maybe some practical ways you can navigate living with them. Hopefully, by the end, you'll have a much clearer picture of what your body's up to.
Okay, let's unpack this then. It turns out the whole idea of an allergy is maybe surprisingly quite recent. Fascinating story, actually. The term itself, coined back in 1906 by a Viennese pediatrician, Clemens von Perquet, sharp guy. He noticed some of his young patients had this, hypersensitivity to stuff that usually didn't bother anyone. Everyday things like dust, pollen, certain foods.
Right, things we encounter all the time.
Exactly. And Perquet looked at this puzzle and called it allergy. It comes from the Greek for other work.
Other work.
Yeah.
That's quite fitting, isn't it? It really points to the body doing something different. And it's amazing how that initial observation shaped our modern view. Today, we define allergies or allergic diseases as conditions caused by the immune system's hypersensitivity and overreaction, essentially to things in the environment that don't usually cause problems for most people.
So it's this broad category.
Yeah, a real umbrella term. It covers things like hay fever, dermatitis, asthma, food allergies, a whole range.
Right. And the things causing the reactions, we call those allergens, yeah?
That's the term, allergens. They're the specific substances that trigger that immune response, common ones. Dust, pollen, insect stings are big ones, and of course certain foods. Lots of different potential triggers out there.
So how does the body actually react? What's happening, on a tiny level?
Okay, think of it like your body's security system getting a bit overzealous. When an allergen enters, the immune system tries to protect you by making specific immunoproteins. Think of them as tailor-made warning flags for that allergen.
Got it. Flags.
These flags, these immunoproteins, then attach to certain white blood cells, kind of like activating security guards. This triggers the release of an inflammatory chemical called histamine.
Ah, histamine. I've heard of that. Antihistamines, right?
Exactly. Because histamine is the chemical that causes many of those classic allergy symptoms. Inflammation, maybe a skin rash, or even the tightening of the airways, the bronchioles in your lungs like you see in asthma.
Okay, so that's the basic mechanism. But you mentioned allergies are common globally, but more common in developed nations. That seems counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? But the statistics bear it out. Allergies are everywhere, but definitely more prevalent in developed countries. Think about this. Over 20% of people deal with allergic rhinitis. That's the runny nose, sneezing kind of thing. Over 20% get allergic dermatitis at some point. Yeah, and asthma affects somewhere between, say, 1 and 18% of people, depending on the region. And food allergies. Over 6% have at least one. Those aren't small numbers.
No, not at all. That's a significant chunk of the population.
It really is. And what's maybe more concerning is that the rates for many of these allergic diseases seem to be increasing.
Increasing. Why would that be?
Well, the sources suggest it's linked to various factors in our modern lives. Things like more processed foods, maybe more fast food in diets, also synthetic fabrics we wear, and definitely pollutants in the environment.
So our lifestyle may be playing a big role.
It certainly seems that way. It kind of raises this big question, doesn't it? What does this trend tell us about how our modern way of living is interacting with our immune systems? Are we maybe creating environments our bodies aren't fully adapted to yet?
That's a heavy thought. So, okay, we know what triggers them allergens and how the body reacts, but how do these allergens actually get into our bodies?
Good question. There are a few main pathways. First, through the skin. Think about direct contact. Things like latex, maybe certain fabrics, or even insect bites can trigger a reaction right on the skin.
Makes sense. Like a rash from poison ivy, but an allergic version?
Sort of, yeah. Then there's the mouth. This is a big one for food allergies, obviously. A huge range of foods can cause issues. Interestingly, about 90% of allergic food reactions come from just a handful of culprits. Cow's milk, soya, eggs, wheat, peanuts, fish, and shellfish.
Wow, 90% from just those few.
Pretty much. And milk protein allergies are especially common in kids. Something interesting there. About 10% of children with a milk allergy might also react to beef because the proteins are similar.
Huh, never knew that. Okay, so skin, mouth, what else?
Those breathing things in. This covers pollen, mold spores, dust particles, even certain chemicals you might inhale.
Right, the classic hay fever triggers.
Exactly. And the symptoms often relate to how the allergen got in. So, for those inhaled allergens, like dust or pollen, you'll usually see symptoms where the air touches. Eyes, nose, lungs. That means irritation in the nose, sneezing, coughing, maybe wheezing, red watery eyes, extra mucus, shortness of breath. That cluster of symptoms.
Okay, the respiratory stuff. What about food allergies?
Food allergies tend to show up differently. More gut-related symptoms, abdominal pain, bloating, vomiting, diarrhea, sometimes itchy skin or swelling too. But they rarely cause those respiratory reactions you get with inhaled allergens.
That's a useful distinction.
And then there's what we call systemic allergic responses. The big one here is anaphylaxis. This is often triggered by things like insect bites or reactions to medications. Aspirin, antibiotics like penicillin are common examples. That's why doctors and nurses are always so careful to ask about allergies before giving you certain drugs. The reaction can affect your whole system.
Yeah, you hear horror stories. It sounds terrifying. So let's talk specifics then. Hay fever, asthma, these are common ones. How do they differ?
Right. So hay fever. Usually that's a reaction to pollen, especially when plants are flowering. The lining of your nose gets inflamed, super sensitive, produces loads of mucus, hence the runny nose, the sneezing. Your eyes can get itchy and watery too. Annoying, but usually manageable.
Okay, annoying but manageable. What about asthma?
Asthma is generally more serious. What happens there is the muscles on the walls of your airways, the bronchioles, they contract, they tighten up. This narrows the tubes, making it hard to breathe and causing that characteristic wheezing sound.
And what triggers asthma attacks?
Often the same inhaled allergens, like pollen or dust. But certain foods can trigger it in some people too. Even nervousness or stress can sometimes make it worse. Treatment usually involves drugs that help relax those bronchial muscles, opening the airways back up.
Okay, and then there are hives.
Hives, yeah. That's when you suddenly get these swollen, pale red bumps or patches on your skin, like welts. It's an allergic reaction often to things like medicines or specific foods. They can appear quite suddenly.
Right. And the most severe one you mentioned, anaphylaxis.
Anaphylaxis, yes, this is the really critical one. It's a sudden, severe allergic reaction. Key features are a rapid drop in blood pressure and serious shortness of breath because the airways constrict. What's really striking and dangerous is that multiple organ systems can be involved: circulatory system, respiratory system.
A whole body crisis.
Exactly. Symptoms can include skin reactions like redness, rashes, itching, swelling, but also that bronchoconstriction, the airway tightening, and the dangerously low blood pressure. It can happen incredibly fast, or sometimes be delayed. It might even seem to resolve and then come back.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so important to treat it as an emergency.
Wow. Yeah, that highlights why asking about allergies before giving medication isn't just protocol, it's potentially life-saving.
Yeah.
Okay, so given all this, what can you actually do about allergies? Is there a cure?
Unfortunately, no permanent cure exists right now. Medications are mainly for providing relief from the symptoms. So the most crucial thing, really, is prevention. Identifying what triggers your specific reactions, your allergens, and then avoiding them as much as possible. This is especially key for food and medicine allergies.
Avoidance is number one.
Absolutely. For some people, particularly with seasonal allergies like pollen, anti-allergy shots, or immune therapy, can be helpful over time. They sort of desensitize your system. And naturally, if you have severe allergies, it's really important to consult with doctors who specialize in allergy treatment.
Okay. And that avoidance strategy really hinges on knowing what you're allergic to in the first place, right? Diagnosis seems key.
Totally critical. Getting a correct diagnosis is the foundation for effective management. When you have that, along with proper counseling and advice on avoidance based on, valid test results, it makes a huge difference. It reduces symptoms, means you need less medication, and generally improves your quality of life.
So how do they figure it out? What are the tests?
There are two main methods, and both are considered equally valid for checking for those specific allergen antibodies we talked about. You've got the skin prick test, and you've got an allergy blood test.
Okay, tell me about the skin prick test. Sounds prickly.
Yeah. It involves tiny little pricks or punctures in the skin, usually on your forearm or back. Sometimes they do intradermal injections just under the skin. They introduce tiny amounts of different suspected allergens like extracts of pollen, dust mites, food proteins, insect venom at marked spots.
And then you wait and see?
Pretty much. If you're allergic to one of the substances, you'll usually see a reaction at that spot within about, say, 15 to 30 minutes. It looks a bit like a mosquito bite, some redness, maybe a raised bump called a wheal. The size of the reaction gives an indication of sensitivity.
Okay. And the other option, the blood test.
Right, the allergy blood test. This one's quite straightforward. It's just a regular blood draw, quick and simple. Your doctor, maybe an allergy specialist, can order it. A big advantage here is that, unlike the skin test, it can be done on almost anyone regardless of age, skin condition like eczema, whether you're taking antihistamines, other symptoms, activity level, even during pregnancy.
So it's more versatile in some ways.
It can be, yeah. And it's very safe because you're not actually being exposed to any allergens during the test itself. They just analyze your blood in the lab. What it does is measure the concentration of those specific antibodies, IgE antibodies, to various allergens in your blood.
And what does that tell the doctor?
A lot, actually. It helps pinpoint what you're allergic to. It can sometimes help predict how likely an allergy is to develop further or estimate the risk of a severe reaction. It can also help explain cross-reactivity, like why someone allergic to birch pollen might also react to apples or celery, because the proteins are similar.
That makes sense, connecting the dots.
Exactly. And thinking about the bigger picture here, these diagnostic tools are incredibly empowering, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Knowing precisely what sets off your allergies allows you, the individual, to take back some control, manage your environment, and reduce that anxiety that comes with unknown triggers. It really helps people manage their own health proactively.
That's a really powerful way to look at it. Not just a test, but a tool for empowerment. Well, there you have it, our deep dive into allergies. We've gone from the surprising origin of the word itself, way back when,
Other work.
all the way to the complex ways our immune system reacts and the sophisticated tools we now have to understand and manage these conditions. It's really quite a journey from that first observation.
It absolutely is. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Considering how intricately our immune systems interact with everything around us and seeing these rising rates of allergies, what else might we learn by looking even deeper into that subtle dance between our bodies and our modern world? Beyond just avoiding triggers or treating symptoms, what other insights are waiting out there?
A fascinating question to ponder.